All right, clearly another day in which bears got the best of it. So yesterday, my yellow light on stocks, having shifted from red, maybe was too hopeful, but I'm perhaps remaining stubborn and holding with it for now. There's a few things that happened today that are very curious for sure, and possibly leaves a tiny little last hopeful sliver for bulls. But let's be real, the price action is just terrible. It really is. And I think a lot of the market points towards this deep flush. It still hasn't happened. It's bizarre that it hasn't. You thought that was maybe Monday, but instead, every bid just fails. No matter how good the data come in, got soft inflation numbers, pretty good progress for CPI and not bad for PPI. You could argue some of it maybe feeds into a slowdown possibility if people are spending less and consumer stocks continue to get destroyed. But a few things I noticed today on the dollar and gold that are particularly interesting. But first, look at the stock chart. Also, the NASDAQ didn't put in new lower lows. I mean, we basically touched them, so you could kind of argue that maybe we haven't broken down. We did in the ES, the blue line for the S&P minis. We did break to a fresh new low, so we got the lower low, and it really, obviously, that's downtrend. So it's not a good technical look, and the momentum is clearly in bear's favor right now. However, that being said, the gold and the dollar move today is, in my mind, the most important and suggests that there's a different conversation coming possibly soon. Now, whether or not it's bullish for stocks, I don't really have a great answer to, which is why I've got the yellow light on for stocks. But it is important what happened today. Firstly, you had this big breakout in gold, okay? And gold has been doing exactly what it's supposed to. Gold, by the way, is looking fantastic. Look at the chart. Sideways, completely sideways. Yellow rocks sitting there doing nothing. Exactly what they're supposed to do while the rest of the market went bananas. Stocks got destroyed. Bitcoin gets crushed. Silver also looks like it wants to make a breakout too. So this is an interesting development, number one. Now, gold all the times gets associated as being a safety trade, but that's kind of true and kind of not. Gold used to just move next to real interest rates, but that's shifted a little bit as there's been signs of other rate-insensitive gold buyers like central banks. But I still like to pay attention to it because it suggests there's now another layer onto the market with gold breaking out. Now, when you see stocks down, it clearly looks like gold is a type of safety trade, a possible haven trade. But keep in mind, there's a lot of historical time period in which gold's going up with stocks, because gold still is something that does go up and down, not as crazy as Bitcoin or stocks, but it still does. And so there is a little bit of risk in there. It's not quite the bond. And then the dollar finally catching a bid at the same time gold breaks out. That's curious because a lot of your textbooks are going to tell you that gold and the dollar are supposed to move inverse. But remember, a lot of the times those textbooks break. We saw the dollar and crude oil rallying together during the inflationary period of 2022 because the Fed had to hike, so the dollar went up. But crude was going up because inflation was going up. So when these relationships with the dollar start to break down, that's when they catch my eye a lot. And if you've been following, you know I've been waiting for some stability in the dollar, and it looks like we finally got it. So the dollar stability, finding a bid as a safety trade again today, suggests the dollar is kind of reaffirming its role. And keep in mind, the dollar has been correlated to the downside with stocks. So the dollar firming up argues a little slight in favor of bulls. And gold, while on the surface looks like a safety trade, sometimes gold is just the first place people will go when they're starting to feel a tiny bit risk appetite again. Maybe Bitcoin's too crazy, and Bitcoin's got too much political premium. Maybe the stock market's still too risky. But maybe gold's the first sign of people trying to maybe just move a little bit outside of just the bond market. They did it with the dollar too, and I think that helps stabilize things. Let's hope we don't get the flush. Have a good night.